Call the special meeting of the Board of Education to order for August 22nd, 2017. This is the budget hearing tonight, so we'd ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Bobby, roll call, please.
Jessica Mead here. Andy Mary.
Yes.
Noel Deep.
Oh, he's here.
Patrick McKenna.
Present.
Jenny Pyatt.
Here.
Danielle Yushka. JD Schrader.
Here.
Jeannie Long. Here. And Mike Boldig.
Here. Alrighty, do we have anyone signed in? Tim,
No.
on your way back down?
No, you don't.
Oh, we don't?
Bobby, Danielle just said she's on her way. You want to grab her computer?
Oh, there's
Bobby, don't worry.
Bobby,
She just asked me to grab her computer.
Sure.
You can do that for me. Okay, with no public comment, we will get right into the presentation on the budget. Tim, you want to?
Yeah, and if the board members want to grab a seat, they can watch or they can somewhat follow through the budget book. It's your choice. Okay, first of all, I want to recognize Dawn Schrader. Dawn is here tonight. Dawn has prepared the vast majority of the financials of the budget book. She handles all the accounting for the district, and I want to thank her for that work. Lori Leiterman helped prepare the information in the budget book with regard to the grants. And then finally, Melanie Ryan assisted me with actually formatting and putting the budget book together. So I want to thank her for that. First thing I want to do is, you've seen a lot of these slides we've updated and you've seen from prior years. This kind of gives you the outline of the timeline. Right now, the governor's budget proposal has not been approved. And state statute says that prior year funding levels are in force now. So the per pupil aid that the governor has proposed is not in effect. And it's still, as far as funding is concerned, it's still at $250 per student. Our budget, however, is built on the assumption of that increase in per pupil aid. So important for us is going to be when we have the October board meeting, we amend this budget, and we set the tax levy. At that time, we're going to know enrollment, we're going to know equalized aids, and we're going to know equalized value.
Tim,
Yep.
if they don't approve the budget, are we looking at short-term borrowing?
We're going to look at short-term borrowing regardless. Essentially, what I've read today, as of today, the governor's talking about trying to get something by September 24th. So I don't think school funding is what's holding up the budget, and I anticipate that before we get into October, we're going to know those numbers.
What's the longest they've ever gone?
I think, if I recollect, I think it might have been 3 years ago. Might have been the longest. 3 or 4 years ago.
I suppose I could Google it.
But yeah, but I mean, I think Wisconsin, last time I looked, Wisconsin and Polk was one of 4 states without an approved budget at this time. Okay, I know that this is difficult to read, and Jake, maybe you want to keep this right here in front. Okay, so we're presenting tonight, we're presenting a balanced budget based on some of the following assumptions. One of the things that's difficult for me to do in particular is to look at enrollment. We're really close to the start of school, and we do the budget hearing before Third Friday. So we're estimating the numbers that you're going to see tonight prior to Third Friday count. So we're estimating that our 3-year rolling average is going to decrease by 26 students, that we're going to have a net negative of 89 students open and rolling out. We're also assuming that the governor's proposal is going to be there, and we're going to get a $200 per student increase in categorical aid. We're also assuming, because of that 26 student reduction in enrollment, that we're going to see a decline in revenue limit authority of over $350,000. We're waiting for equalized values from the Department of Revenue. We get that information on October 1st. July preliminary estimates were for a 1% increase. And those assumptions are built into the model, or into the budget projections. We have included $600,000 from fund balance for maintenance expenditures, and combine that with grant carryover, we're anticipating about almost 1% increase in total expenditures. We're also estimating a decrease in the mill rate from 809 to 742. This is a slide that I try to pound home, and it's really School Finance 101. So enrollment drives revenue limit. So our student enrollment determines how big our revenue limit authority is going to be. On October 1st, we get aid certifications from the state. That's going to tell us how much the state is going to pay. Whatever we're left with is what we can levy for the local, against the local taxpayers. So in short, enrollment drives the size, and then it's a share between state aids and the local tax levy. This is a chart that you'll see in the budget book, and it's really just a trend of third Friday enrollment counts over time. And you know, because of the revenue limit, enrollment is extremely important to us. The model that we're presenting tonight is based off of a Forecast 5 model that we use in combination with the information we gathered from the Applied Population Lab. And our projections over the next 4 years are somewhere high and low of a 1.5% to a 3.5% decrease in enrollment. In the budget book, we also include some projections for future enrollments. Bobby, because of the library census information, collects this data. And I like to just look at it over time because it's a pretty good indicator of what our enrollments are going to be. And historically, 93% of the kids that are born within district boundaries end up attending an Antigo school. Of those students, when they're age eligible to attend, about 75% of those attend Antigo's 4K program. So it's a real good indicator. Last year, the last school year, we had 215 births within the district boundaries. Now, I was pretty surprised by that. So I went ahead and let's just do a 10-year history of that information. And I was expecting to see some reasonable trend for enrollment projections. And quite frankly, I don't see a trend there. We're up and down. But if our rates of attendance follow historical patterns, I'm guessing that we're going to have between 140 and 150 kids in our elementary enrollments.
Kim, where do those numbers come from, those live birth numbers?
Okay, you know, maybe Bobby can explain, but it's information we use for the Common School Fund, and they want to know our 4-year-old through age 20 enrollments. And Bobby's responsible for collecting that information.
Yeah, but I mean, where do you get the live birth?
Live birth comes from GPI, and that includes all townships within our district. It's a confidential report that only districts have access to. I'm assuming that the hospitals must report to, they must get it from the state register.
Yeah.
Okay, this next slide is one you've seen before, and I've updated. 85% of our general Fund 10 revenues come from this worksheet. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. But what's important is the state takes a look at this top box, and that's our revenue limit authority from last year. And then they look at enrollments, and they calculate FTEs for us. And we essentially, in that top box, they subtract off our declining enrollment exemption, and we're set with a base. And the formula calculates, in our case, a new declining enrollment. And what's important is when we look at this graph at the end, we're going to be $350,000 less revenue limit authority. And this is a graph that I generated from data that DPI collects. And it just really shows us where our revenue limit authority has gone. And remember, that's 85% of our general fund revenues. And when we have discussions on consolidation, this is a graph that we should be referring to because it just shows how difficult it is for us to sustain when we have declining enrollment. This is another graph that takes that data and divides it on a per pupil basis. And you can look at Antigo's information there is in blue, and it compares it to the state average. So you can see that we are lagging behind the state. This is the pie charts that just showing where our revenues come from. And you can see that the 32% local is primarily tax levy. The 61% is general aids, state categorical aids, and grants. We have federal funding that includes IDEA, Title I, Title II, gives you just some indication. And this has been pretty stable over the last several years that I've looked. So let's take a little closer look at our local sources. And board members, these are documents that you've seen over and over, and the captions are standard DPI verbiage. I'm certainly happy to go over them with you. We present 3 years worth of information as required by DPI. You can see there in the 210 area, that's local taxes. We've got 260 non-capital sales. Those are revenues we budgeted for, primarily in our case, the construction class house. It also includes the sale of other student-type project activities. The 270 area is income that we receive for admissions to all different kinds of district events. The 290 area there is going to be payments primarily for student fees from our whether it's textbooks, parking lot, class project type fees that we collect.
What was the difference on the 270 fund? How come $10,000, a lot less people come back due to the sporting events, or what?
One, I would say that's probably true. Like, we can see a swing easy when you have a winning football team or a winning hockey season or something like that. You can see those little bits of swings. And if you're hosting tournament games, maybe, that kind of thing. Under the districts within the state of Wisconsin there, you see that 340 payments for services. Those are payments we receive for other districts, primarily for open enrollment in students. So in the state sources, and again, I'm not sure why we don't spell it out in plain language, but this is DPI verbiage. 610 is going to be transportation in the common school fund. 620 is our general aid, and that also includes poverty aid that we receive. Let's go down to 650 is our AGR SAGE grant. 690 then is going to be our per pupil increase. So that's going to be our per pupil aid. And again, it's important that this budget is built around the assumption that the governor's proposal of $200 per student will come through. And that's an increase in over $437,000 over the prior year.
If it doesn't, are we going to, I'm sure we'll, but would we have to make some big cuts right then and there in October? Or?
I would expect that would be a case where when we get into the fund balance piece of the presentation, that would be an area where we'd say, we're into the school year, we'll trim what we can, but that would be an area for fund balance, I would think. Under federal sources, the categorical aid there is Carl Perkins. 730 is Title II and CEIS. Under 780, that's prior year Medicaid reimbursements. The state also supports special education through this special education and school age parents categorical aid. So we take our Fund 27 eligible expenditures, we get reimbursement rates from the state. This is just showing historically that information. And this year, the state is estimating that they're going to pay at a rate of about 25.7%. Expenditures. The takeaway from this graph is you can see that salary and benefits represents a big chunk of the pie, and it represents 76%. When we look at other items in there, we have purchased services. Those are things where we're paying for someone else other than district staff to do a service, whether that's legal, whether that's transportation, auditors. It also includes when Jake hires contractors for building maintenance, and it also includes things like the purchase of utilities to operate our buildings. Under the non-capital objects, which is 3.7%, you're talking classroom supplies, textbooks, workbooks, library materials. It also includes like our Chromebook initiative, small, low-priced non-capital objects. Then under the 2% under capital objects, that's things like switches, switchgear, network stuff for electronics, instructional equipment, maintenance equipment, those kinds of things. I know we're running a little long here, but let's just take a look. And again, board members, these are reports that you've seen. And when we talk about function area, we're saying, what is the money, what is the function that we're doing to pay this money? So when we look at the instructional side, here's a little breakdown. So included in these numbers, the schools each get, aside from salaried staff, they also get an allocation for supplies and materials. And at the elementary, we're funding those buildings at $120 per student. Middle school is $200, and the high school is at $235 per student. So that's above and beyond their staff. That's their allocation out of the Fund 10. So when we look at undifferentiated curriculum, that's primarily expenditures related to elementary school. Regular curriculum are for things like English, math, reading, social studies, science. The $136,000 there vocational curriculum includes business, technology, family and consumer ed, agriculture, and our traditional tech ed classes. Down on the bottom at $170,000 is what we spend on gifted and talented, the spelling bee, and homebound services. So we're a little light there. Support service is another document that you see every month. All of these function areas are listed for you every month. They're listed with these captions and not the descriptions I'm giving you. So under the pupil service area, the $210,000 area, that includes counseling, nursing, psychologists, and PBIS. 220 is under instructional media services. That's going to be library, curriculum, instructional coaches, staff training, and the after-school program. 230 is the board administration, HR, and our wellness and biometric testing. 240,000 is the office of the principal. So it's everything from field trips, copy machine maintenance, just about anything you can imagine that's a principal has a hand in, staff development, that's all coming out of that office area. The 250,000 area is essentially business services, so it's financial, it's operational, so like things like utilities, it's transportation, it's all of Jake's maintenance budget, those kinds of operations. And you'll see a little adjustment in the 260,000 area this year. What we've done is we've taken technology, and when I say, let's call it technology infrastructure. We're taking our technology department and pulling it out of media, which was primarily library function, and isolating that function so we can monitor that more easily. So that's something new this year. And then we have non-program expenditures, and the only reason I'm going over this is because this is a report board members see every month. And the interfund transfer under that 410,000 area is essentially Fund 10 support of special education activities. And then the last one there, the 430,000 area, is what we're paying other districts for things like open enrollment, the RVA, youth options, NTC business partnership, partners agreement, all of those kinds of functions. So our total expenditures in Fund 10 this year are estimated at $26,781,894. So for the remainder of the presentation, we're going to be bouncing around to different groups of the budget. Some of them are statutory requirements, and others are some that I just think you should know. Prior service liability. The reason I bring this out is you're going to see it on the tax levy. And it's important that you understand where it comes from. So essentially, it's an obligation that we have refinanced, which was owed to the Wisconsin State Retirement System. It was refinanced in 2012. You can see the payout schedule there, where we're going to be out of debt there in 2024. And this year, we'll levy just over $303,000 for that repayment. Post-retirement benefit. We run the post-retirement benefit through a separate fund called the Fund 73 Trust. I'm obligated at the annual meeting to discuss the activities that occur in that account. And essentially, in a nutshell, we've taken post-retirement benefits and converted that liability to a contribution to a retiree HRA. So when we go look at the detail, this is also listed in the budget book. We call it a defined benefit, which is that insurance premium that we're going to pay for each retiree for X number of years. That's managed, our contributions are invested in the Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperative, which is managed by PMA. Our defined contribution, which is our retiree HRA, is a fixed annuity that is managed by MidAmerica. So I'm required by law to give you the activity. So the beginning balance of the combined trust was $1,491,908.87. Total contributions to the trust were $864,667.93. Total distributions from the trust were $676,612.35, with an ending balance of $1,708,652.84. We're projecting that the district's contribution to post-retirement insurance benefits will be below $100,000 by 21-22 fiscal year. Okay, community service levy. Again, that's another separate levy of the budget, and it's used to support the aquatic center. If we don't use it for community services, we cannot use it for classroom instruction. So if we don't levy it for community service, it just comes off the levy. We can't apply that dollars towards education. In 2015, 2 years ago, we increased the levy from $220,000 to $270,000. And just as a point of reference, we've got a committed group of people supporting the pool. Last year, we received almost $45,000 in donations.
Is that just up to the board motion or something? How do you decide if we're going to raise or lower that?
What we do is the aquatics committee, when the aquatics board starts seeing issues and problems, we make a recommendation, the board does, and then they recommend that to the full school board. So this is just the budget as we propose it for the Claire R. McKenna Aquatic Center. And what I want to point out is just a couple things. So if we look in the column of 2015-16, and if you go down to total other, and if you look at the fundraising activity, in 2015-2016, we received over $190,000 in donations. We've been using that money to take on major maintenance projects. And last year we spent almost $70,000, just over $70,000 on a painting project. This year we're proposing to spend another $20,000 on equipment replacement in the filter room. So we've got a really committed group of folks that support the pool. Revenues for admissions and memberships have been relatively constant over time. And so we are estimating with the use of $20,000 from fund balance, revenues of $480,000. Looking at expenditures, we've been running the facility now for over 14 years. Operating it has been pretty consistent. We know what utilities are going to be on average, somewhat weather dependent. Staffing has been very predictable, and we feel pretty comfortable that we also will have expenditures of around $480,000. Okay, so let's switch gears one more time and start talking about fund balance. This is a slide I've used before, and it's one that really sets the purpose of a fund balance. Every year, we cash flow borrow. So we do use it as part of our cash flow management. For the last 2 years, we've been using fund balance to support planned projects. If we got in a situation like the governor's budget, I would consider that an unplanned. And we could either call it an emergency, but that would be a proper use of a fund balance. And then finally, it's also used to do like educational initiatives. And 2 years ago, we took $25,000 out of fund balance to support the Fab Lab, to kickstart that program. And that's an appropriate use. So this is a slide, and I hope you can see it. It's basically looking at the detail of fund balance. And let's look at the 2016-2017 school year. And let's start out at the bottom. So we ended last year with a fund balance of $5,815,239. And that fund balance then is broken apart a little bit. And let's now jump more towards the top blue. So when we look at that non-spendable number of $274,000, it's non-spendable because we've paid for July insurance premiums in June. And that's an account for that. When we look down below in the restricted account, that is the $1.1 million that we're using to support the HRA health insurance piece and our self-funded dental program. So that's restricted. We can't use that for any other purpose but that. So then when we get down on the bottom, last year I wanted to communicate to our community why purposeful of using a fund balance. And so the two numbers there that we have, the 3.6 million and the 500,000, one of them, the 500,000, is kind of like a little reserve. What we're going to say is really should be designated for emergencies. So the other is strictly used for cash flow purposes. So if you really look at our fund balance, in my way of thinking, we're ending the year with somewhere around 4.1 million in fund balance. We're anticipating, looking at the far column on the right, that we're going to end next year with just under $5 million in fund balance. That is inclusive of the $600,000 we're pulling out for maintenance. So if we subtract the prepayment for the insurance premium, we subtract what we're going to end up with the HRA and dental, we're going to be down below somewhere probably in that neighborhood of 3.7 or 3.6 of what I would say would be truly cash flow purposes and emergency use of funds. Questions on that? Okay, and just to exemplify that, I've shown this chart to you before. You know, if we look at our budget, I've said it's 75% salary and benefits. Those people are on staff 12 months a year, so our expenditures going out every month, 26 pays, that's pretty constant. But if you look below on the bottom, you can see, like, if you look at October and November, and if you look in April and May, those are 4 out of the 12 months where we're receiving almost no revenue. And it results in a typical cash flow. This is one that I took from, I think, about 2 years ago. And again, that varies by when our aid payments come in and when our tax levy payments come in. But it's pretty typical. So if you approve the budget and you allow us to short-term borrow, we'll start working diligently on getting this cash flow model developed, and we'll work with our financial advisors, and we'll be coming back to you in October to approve, hopefully, short-term borrowing. So this is our estimated levy. We've talked about the local taxes, we've talked about the fire service, and we've also talked about the community service levy. So those three components of the levy combined are $7,995,614. You can look at the actual levy, which would be kind of the darker yellow color. Last year, we set it at 809. We're estimating that we're going to set it at 742, a decrease of 67 cents, and that is based on equalized values going up 1%. This is another example of a graph I generated from DPI data. The number in the red is the average municipal spending for education, comparing the state average in red to Antigo in blue. And you can see that we are more than $2 below the state average. So we've gone over a lot of information. I hope it was helpful. And the regular board meeting will ask you to adopt the budget. That includes a general fund of $26,781,894 in all funds, including the ones listed there for $30,616,836. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's bear that.
Tim, thank you. Our appreciation to your staff, Dawn, you and the whole crew there, appreciate your hard work very much. So, seeing that there were no questions, anybody have anything else to ask on the budget? If not, we can look at a motion to adjourn the budget.
Is equalized values go up 1% every year typically? Or is that?
I think the state average this year will probably be closer to 2.5%.
But for us?
I think last year we had, Dawn, do you recall, I think it was less than equalized values. I think it was less last year than 1%. I think it was closer to 0.
You got anything else? Okay, we'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
You have a second? Second. Motion from Ms. Long, second from Mr. Pyatt to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Budget hearing is adjourned. Once again, would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate that. Bobby, roll call once again, please.
Jessica Bied. Here. Andy Mary.
Yes.
Mel G.
Here.
Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
Danny Pyatt.
Here.
Danielle Yushka. Katie Schrader.
Here.
Jeannie Long.
Here.
And Mike Boldig.
Here. Thank you, Bobby. All right, we'll move right on to the consent agenda, so you'd be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board approve the minutes of the July 25th, 2017 Board of Education meeting, the financial report for July 2017, checks 7893 through 7957 in the amount of $59,148.51. ACH's number 171800171800115 in the amount of $457,127.14, and a wire transfer in the amount of $13,583.98 for a total of $529,859.63. So close.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Dr. McKenna, second from Ms. Yuska. to approve the items on the consent agenda. Any questions, comments?
Mike, can I just make one? You know, I really would like the board, if you, when you're reviewing it, if you look at your account balances, and if you just want to pull that one out. You know, we just got done talking short-term borrowing, and I know that we're all real busy, but this is a document where you can just quickly look. And it's essentially, Dawn's put this together, and it's looking at what I'm going to call our working accounts and where we are to date with cash on hand. So it's a way for you to look at that document and see. And you can see, if you remember where we were back in April, we were at a much different point than where we are right now. So we're running down. And you'll see, you know, as of now, in September, we're gonna get an 8 payment, and that'll be a couple $2 million, and it'll put us right back where we wanna be. But it's a good idea to know when we as a district are into short-term borrowing.
Thank you, Tim, for pointing that out. Okay. Anyone else? Bobby, let's do a roll call.
Andy Marion,
Yes.
Noel Deep,
Yes.
Patrick McKenna,
Yes.
Jenny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yushka,
Yes.
JD Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
and Mike Boldy.
Yes. Very good. Thank you, everyone. We'll go on to public comment. Tim, didn't see anybody signed in, do you? Okay. Then we'll jump right to item 4, which is the fiscal year 2018 budget approval. Be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board approve the fiscal year 2018 revised budget and authorize administration to proceed with the preparation of bid document for purposes of short-term borrowing.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion for Ms. Mead, second for Ms. Long, to approve the fiscal year 2018 budget. Any questions, comments? Just saw a good presentation on it. I think it's filled everything out pretty well. Bobby, roll call.
Noel Deep,
Yes.
Patrick McKenna,
Yes.
Jenny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yushka,
Yes.
JD Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Marion,
Yes.
and Mike Boldy.
Yes. Good. Thank you. On to new business, Committee on Instruction.
I move the board approve the minutes of the Committee on Instruction, August 1st, 2017.
Second. We have a motion from Mr. Pyatt, second from Dr. D. Any comments or questions on the what transpired at the Instruction Committee meeting? Anything? Okay. That being the case, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Committee on Operations. Once again, looking for a motion.
I move the board accept the minutes of the Committee on Operations meeting, August 15, 2017.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Long, second from Ms. Mead. Once again, the information is available to the board members. If there's any questions, comments? Not hearing anything?
Jay,
Yeah. Go ahead, JJ.
what, did you said I'm sorry, I missed the meeting. There was some maintenance issues at the elementary schools that we weren't expecting?
I wouldn't exactly say that we weren't expecting. They've been in the long-range planning for ever. The one that I elaborated on was the boiler system at East. It's a little bit worse than we had originally assumed. I mean, we knew there was leaks, and as we went through the summer looking at what exactly we had to deal with, they were worse than we had originally thought at the beginning of the summer.
Is that the ones we bought the new boilers for, or is that the other?
Correct. And that was part of the conversation as far as making sure that we don't install those and cause damage to them right away due to the leaks. Because what happens when you have a leak, the chemical balance in the water in that closed loop has to be of such that it doesn't cause corrosion or oxidation to either the boiler or the piping. And as those leaks occur, it gets harder to balance that because you're balancing it all the time. So we're working through that.
So when will that be completed?
What?
Are you gonna help fixing all that?
Yeah, well, what I'm thinking we're gonna end up doing is fixing the current boiler. That is, one of them is leaking, and replacing one with the one from West and get us through the winter.
That's right, okay. And
That's the most feasible and economic plan that I can see.
Otherwise you have to fix a lot of pipes or something that you can't do before school, or was that the?
Yeah, it'd be either breaking up a large portion of the concrete floor to repair the pipes in place, or if we put the pipes overhead, it required the system to have glycol, like the new system would have. And by the time you get down either one of those paths, you're talking quite substantial amount of money.
So these are the, and so this is essentially the HVAC upgrade that we've done to West. You're referring to these for East and North, which are on the plan, but we did not talk about explicitly. But you're saying this needs to be done.
Yep,
so that might be what you did this year at West, might be next year at least,
correct.
And North.
if we can afford
Possible.
it.
Yeah.
Danielle, the only problem is there's a winter in between. So that's the difference.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that fair?
And the boilers are in are they in at East now?
We have received them, they're not installed, because I didn't want to cause any damage to
So you
them.
gotta wait a whole year before you can put them in.
That's my
I
recommendation.
thought the East boiler was broken.
It
We
is.
replaced it with the West boiler.
That's what we're going to do.
Ah, okay, and then use that
Yes.
one to just limp by until,
Correct.
okay,
That's
Okay.
the plan.
okay.
So,
And you said, is the boiler at Mattoon the same manner of boiler? Just out of curiosity?
yes.
Okay, just out of curiosity.
Mike, on the sales update of the construction house, the first couple sentences there, yeah, just a little confusing. The second sentence, it reads, this year, the board members are considering purchasing the home. Obviously, we're not considering purchasing the home.
True.
It should say the Habitat. That's just a
Yeah,
clarification.
I think it's more of the context of how we're reading it, yeah, because since it does mention that the Habitat.
Well, we're talking about two different boards. If
Yeah,
it could just
yeah,
be so
exactly.
named, which board we're talking about, the Habitat board or the school
Yeah.
board?
We're moving it.
Yeah, we're moving up.
Did you see that public sector?
We could use it for a little meeting room.
That's where the meet and greet's gonna be.
Yeah. We already central office there.
So we'd like to have those minutes amended to just indicate that it's the Habitat board members that are considering purchasing.
Yes.
Okay. I think,
Well, I wouldn't even say it's the Habitat board members, it's just the Habitat
board.
board, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you have to say even board, Habitat board, it's just the Habitat Foundation, you know.
So we'll get that correct.
Right now.
Matter of fact, you're doing it right now.
On the ball.
So your middle school repairs, they, is that what we're talking about remodeling, this summer floor? Or is that the middle school repairs you're talking about putting on hold?
And the east wing area for the classrooms?
is that what you're referring to?
Yes. You talking in the minutes, are you talking about putting some other repairs on hold, not remodeling for the classrooms?
Right, we talked about at the committee meeting doing a minimal amount of $50,000 to $100,000 of improvements to the middle school and reallocating the money so that we do both the east and the west projects.
The conversation opened with the monies that was approved from fund balance to go towards building maintenance, where exactly we wanted that to go. And like, there was a couple topics that were discussed, and one was how far we want to go with middle school remodeling to accommodate the incoming students, or if we wanted to use that for east or north. That was a discussion.
One of the things we talked about is that east will eventually be not an option. You know, if pipes burst, you're gonna have to do that project. So we talked about prioritizing those projects.
But still enough in the middle school that we can fit those classrooms in there?
Yeah, we talked about doing those projects internally. So that's one of the things that we'll take a look at, like when we, the discussion about the form that we want to have, because we want people to come in and see those buildings, but we want them to understand, when we get into those details, what that'll look like when they come out.
Did that answer everyone's questions on these? Okay. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Ad hoc committee on facilities and referenda. Looking for motion there as well.
I move the board approve the minutes from the ad hoc committee on facilities referendum meeting on August 1st, 2017.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Mead, second from Mr. Pyatt. Any questions on the minutes?
What was the appraisal value of the Mattoon school? I just thought I saw it in the paper, it was like 700,000.
That will come up, I think that'll come up later when we have that discussion on that. With the timeline and stuff, that's, I believe that's part of the data that's in there, so we can address that at that time. So, review. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. On to board action. First off, change to committee structure.
I move the board forgo meeting at the committee level for operations and instruction and instead meet as a committee of the whole on the second Tuesday of the month and as a full board on the fourth Tuesday of the month. The committees and/or ad hoc will meet as needed, effective beginning September 2017.
I'll second that.
Motion from Ms. Yuska, second from Ms. Long. Discussion.
I have misgivings about it. We did this a few years ago, and I remember that the overall quality of content and information that was moving through the committees structured, like as communication and I forget what the other one was. There's a policy communication. Is that what they were? That was really low. It was low quality. There was not much information. And I really felt it had a lot to do with the structure of it. Once we switched back to the more traditional structure, we tended to learn more about the district and about what was going on and the details. And so I think cutting down to less meetings is always a naturally appealing thing. But we also have committees where, we don't have, you're on a committee, you should come to that meeting, you're expected to. And if you're not on the other committee, if you can't make that meeting, that's, I think, understandable. So I guess I would lean away from doing that, but I'm interested in hearing what other people have to say about that.
I guess, at that point you had Don in charge and I'm optimistic that Colleen and the rest of the district administration staff can organize it. And I guess, I'm fine with having ad hoc committees and stuff, but I'm fine with staying, I don't know, I feel like, obviously I wasn't there, but I think we can work and I think we have a different leader now and it could be more organized.
We will have, removing, in terms of overall content and getting content, does removing a whole meeting, like, I mean, I just assume we'll get less information unless meetings are longer, you know, and so, I mean, I don't, you know, just time-wise, I mean, like, you know, we tend to cover a fair amount, it seems like, in each of the meetings, you know. You know, education committee was, you know, an hour and a half, it sounds like operations was a couple hours. You're going to cut one of those out.
Well, sometimes they are, and they kind of alternate, so I don't know if like 1 month we put more effort into instruction and 1 month we put more effort into operations, you know, and you know, if we have a 3-hour meeting.
I found out if you could not make it to one of those meetings, and you come to the regular board meeting, you're lost if you're not at that meeting.
Is it better just to not get that hour of information then and just not have it?
Well, I'd rather just come together so you're at both meetings at one time so you get all the information.
Yeah, me too.
You know, in the beginning, I missed a lot of the operations committee, and I came to the board meetings, and I was just lost. Anyway, I mean, it was my fault, I could have went. You know, so then I started to go too long.
But it doesn't always work to go.
Right, it doesn't, yes.
And that's where I'm running into. I want to be more involved and be more well-rounded as a board member, and I feel like I'm struggling to have that well-roundedness because I can't always make it to go.
Yeah, I think that's just the reality of.
Well, and I think the intent of this is to try to get it so that we are working together as a cohesive group. It's not a matter of trying to eliminate a meeting and not functionally do the same stuff. It's maybe a matter of taking the meeting and have the first portion of it center around instruction, maybe the second portion of it center around operations. But that way everybody at the table has information at the same time, they're all hearing it in the same vein, and that way, as a group, they can decide, yes, this is something we want to bring forward to the board, no, we need to work on it. So I don't think it's the intent is just to eliminate a meeting per se, but it's to have the board working together as a group, which my impression was that there was some animosity about this being this and this being this, and this way everybody's working on everything together. And that way it eliminates, in my opinion, it eliminates some of the confusion.
Right, partly we talked about it like, you come to if I come to the operations committee meeting, but I can't vote yes or no to forward something to the main board, but if we meet as a committee as a whole, then you can. You know, so then all the board members are more involved in those initial meetings. That is one benefit, because otherwise if we just tried to put everybody on both committees and we ended up with a quorum or whatever you were talking about, well, a quorum without the board having a chance to weigh in.
I guess I don't want to see us start having 3-4 hour meetings because I don't think we make good decisions. I think an hour and a half is kind of optimum. You know, we can cram this all into both those committee meetings into that hour and a half if everybody talks twice as fast.
I mean, what we're effectively talking about is, you know, I'm looking at the information from instruction and from operations for this month. There's a lot of detail in both of those meetings. So effectively, some of that information, which seems, I mean, maybe we don't need to know all of it, but some of that will be gone. I mean, are we okay with that? I mean, that's just effectively how it'll work. People do get tired of long meetings, we flag, you know, we lose concentration. So if that, I mean, that's what essentially will be lost. I mean, and maybe that's okay as a board. It was problematic when we restructured it previously. I don't know, I mean, Mike, how did you feel about that structuring when you had it, you know, you were, you know, definitely there for it?
You mean when we were separated into a functional committee for policy and communication?
Yeah, it was kind of a...
That, I think, was more a effort and a sign of the times at the time when Dr. Childs was here to more or less try to appease a certain segment of the public rather than trying to get the board cohesively working on things. I think if we read the motion a little more carefully, it does say that committees and/or ad hoc will meet as needed. So it's really not knocking those committees away. If there's a need for an operations committee meeting separate, or if there is a need for an instruction committee, there certainly can be one. But it would behoove us to at least give this, in my opinion, give this a shot to see how it transpires. If we can sit in the room together and work as a work meeting and accomplish just as much as we would in 2 separate committee meetings, then we've done our job.
If I can weigh in.
Please.
So one of the things that I like about having you all together is I do think that we are going to have some meaty conversations as you really begin to formulate your consolidation plan. And I think the hard part is that if you're not all at that committee meeting, then there's a tendency to want to replay those conversations here. So I don't know how efficient then in the end we have been with our time. The other piece, I think, is it is really important for all of your perspectives to be on that. And the same thing is going to happen on the instructional side. So you've heard me say a lot of times already, I think we're working on the right work and we're not looking to start new initiatives. But within those initiatives, we have to come together with a common vision, and we don't have that. And so we have to move people forward. And right now, there's great enthusiasm for people to coming around, but eventually we're going to tap some people who are doing it one way and some people who are doing it another way, and they're going to say, oh, I knew we were going to change, but I thought you were going to change those people around me, right? And so you guys are going to start to hear some rumble of maybe we don't like change, and I want to make sure you're tracking together with all the information so that if people are catching you in the community, first of all, you know what's going on, and you're tracking with us so that if we're investing time and resources into getting all of our arrows aligned, you're part of that. And I think you all need to be that. It's interesting in that, my last district was a village of about 1,400. We're many times that size, but we're still a very small town in a lot of ways in terms of what you hear in the conversation you have on the street. And so for me, I would rather that you all hear that information together and you track together. I think there's value in that piece. And I do think that there is a tendency for us to be a little bit inefficient if we take up those really meaty issues. Not all of you are there, but all of you have a passion for it or a perspective that is valued in the final decision. So I can do it however you want, and certainly we'll try to be efficient with your time. So if that means we have to give you more information in advance to prepare or be ready, everybody be ready to engage in conversation about when we get to the meeting, we can do those kinds of things to help us make good use of our time. But I really do like that you're all there together. I don't care how many meetings we have a month, I'm here anyway. But I like that the 9 of you are together.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it feels more like productive work and a work session if we're all together and getting the same information at the same time and the same opportunity to ask questions at the same time. I think there's value in that and finding that brings a question to mind for me and so forth. But yeah, I think we can definitely, if there's something that comes up a month and we're like, yeah, we should really maybe put in another meeting for this topic, then we could do that as well to break it up.
I agree.
But to your point, Patrick, I would want you to have less information. So if you feel like you're not getting enough information, then you have to let me know. Is there something I can do between meetings now? That'll do that.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay.
That sounds good.
Anyone else? Then, once again, the motion is to go to meeting as a committee of the whole and on the second Tuesday a month and the full board on the fourth Tuesday. And committees and or ad hocs will meet as needed, effective September 2017. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. So then starting next month, we will meet as a committee of the whole on the second Tuesday and full board on the fourth Tuesday. Very good, thank you, everyone. Timeline for Mattoon School property. There is information out there as far as the question you had earlier, JD, about the appraisal, and then the additional document regarding the sale timeline. Hope you've all had a chance to look them over.
Mike, can I speak on the appraisal?
Please do, Tim.
At the time that we were getting the Mattoon School appraised, Kevin Terry, our legal counsel, was advising us to get a for-use appraisal. So the appraisal's based on a use as a school. In the appraisal, it also talks about the decrease in value towards the end of the appraisal. It talks about a decrease in value associated with some alternative use, in that depreciation could be significant. You know, at the time, we didn't think to get a standard appraisal for alternative uses. So I'm hesitant to put much value in the number that's out there, because it was specifically for use as an elementary school.
Well, if Mattoon bought it and opened a charter school, would you call that?
Use, yeah. Use as a school, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that statutorily they're allowed to do that, but they might be able to buy it and start a private school.
So you think it's not worth as much as they're saying?
I would say it's, in my opinion, I would think it would be significantly less, correct?
So, what's significantly less, just because I process that?
Would you want to talk about another school that we sold and what we got for that?
Yeah, I think, and Andy, you probably know the dates better than I do, but I'm thinking River Grove, when we sold River Grove. I think we got just over $85,000 for the sale of River Grove. And that included 40 acres with the Eau Claire River boarding it. And I believe it took us almost 2 years to sell that building. My conversations with Colleen, we talked about maybe the board has a preference on who we might want to list it with the realtors if Mattoon isn't interested, and have the realtors do comparables and come up with a value and see where the market goes.
Rather than pay additional dollars for the alternative use
Yeah.
assessment.
Well, at this point, it appears that Dr. Tim's talked with the village, Zach Keefer in particular, and that they're going to be discussing it at their September 11th meeting. So do we want to table this until they have their meeting and see what they have to say, and then take action from that point?
I'd say that's
It says at the bottom here, we're gonna hold an auction in the fall of 2017.
Well, you have stuff in there, Jake, that you were saying it's really kind of leftover stuff anyway, right? It's not like stuff that we're gonna use again. So it's a holding storage space for us. So we can go ahead and sell those things.
Yeah, a lot of it is, that's, all the big and, the ones that we've had around for 3, 4, 5 decades. So,
Well, I'm just thinking if the village of Mattoon wanted to buy this and start their own school or something, somehow, it's worth leaving those desks there, which are I don't think we're gonna get big money for them.
So maybe we wait until we hear from them before we,
Or you could table the whole thing if you want until we do hear from them, bring it back at the end of September and take a look at it. It sounds, Jake, we'd be ready to go pretty quickly on doing some kind of a public sale with that. Because everything's sorted out there in terms of its items that we're not using in other places in the district. And when I talked with Zach, he said, I don't know if the village would have any use for that property. He said, maybe the gym. So in terms of, do they have other thoughts of what it could be, did not sound like it.
Okay.
Tim, what is JT School District number 6?
And I'm not sure on the appraisal why they listed it. If you go to the Shawano County Land Records, it's still listed as Joint School District number 6 in Shawano, even though that's the name of it. We're the owners of the property in the building. Colleen, the other thing I could do is, this is a recent enough appraisal that I could call the appraiser and just see what the cost is to update it for an alternative use too. And I could report that out, to you and then maybe put it in a weekly memo to the board. We can decide whether we want to update it.
See what the cost is
Yeah.
to do it.
So then we're gonna put this one on the side until next week. Revisit it after the Mattoon Village has had a chance to offer their. Okay.
Did you give them this appraisal value when you gave it to Zach, or did you just say, find out if they're interested?
I did not, and he asked, if we had an amount that he should be bringing, I said we did not. But I said that we would be interested in working with him if they were interested in the property, so.
Okay. And we'll put that one on, we'll move that one over to the agenda for September meeting.
Because I'm sure they're gonna see that $700,000 at the newspaper
And not be too interested?
and not be too interested.
But still up to them to make a counter offer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah, they could question it.
Yeah, I mean, we just had some conversation, I mean, if they were interested in having that, I think we would have an interest in them having that, so we'd have conversations about that.
Okay. On item C, roundtable discussion plan. So this is the presentation for next month at the roundtable. So. Anybody have a question, comments on it, have a chance to look at it, run through it? Is there something we need to add, something we need to delete?
So you've seen these documents before, we might have tweaked them a little bit based on some of the conversation that we've had. Jake, I don't know, did you get a chance to throw those slides in?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we had some discussion with the bus company regarding some boundary lines to help those three schools have balanced attendance, but we don't have those yet from them. I imagine they're pretty busy trying to make sure kids have rides to school by September 5th, so.
Make sure they got enough drivers for the buses.
Yeah.
When I looked at this at noon, the green space slides were not in there. Can you just talk us through them quick, Jake?
Yeah, what they are is basically they're an overview, satellite view of the 3 elementary school properties and the middle school property in the city. And they just kind of outline how much square footage we have of playground space, and it kind of breaks it up, not exactly by any means, but it gives a pretty rough idea of how much square footage of asphalt versus grass or playground area that we have. And also, like on East Elementary, it highlights the red square is the staff parking currently. That, could be an option to change into something different and look at it, an alternative parking situation for the staff or something along those lines. But I just wanted to show what we had for property at each of the locations. The one at West Elementary, I didn't spend the time to highlight all that and measure it all out because just the green space on the south side of 7th Ave is over 100,000 square feet, which is way above and beyond anything the other plan recommended for students. So I thought we were pretty safe there, but I still included it in there as a talking point. As you go to the middle school, there's the yellow square is the only current real playground area that we use right now. The red square in front is an option that we could turn into a playground area. Or the lime green is an option that would be my recommendation to turn that into some sort of green space playground area. It would take a little bit of work, but just showing the options that we do have. And then across 8th Ave, the orange area is, again, the staff parking lot that, if needed, we could look at developing that into a playground area and another option for staff parking. I just kind of wanted you guys to have that for talking points at that meeting. The very last slide, and I didn't really know if we should have that on there or not, so I'm looking for a little bit of guidance from the board if they want this. What this worksheet does is it's automated where you can plug and play different changes in. So if you look at that middle school and say, okay, I like the 30,000 square feet in the lime green, you can plug that in, which it actually shows on here, and then it equates out and it shows square footage per student. That may be a little too much for the first conversation on that. And obviously when you put it in a slideshow like this, it wouldn't be active. So you couldn't play with it and show anybody anything anyways. So I guess I kind of wanted a little bit of input on whether you liked having that on there or.
But, you know, we have had people on the board here themselves question the green space. So if that is one of the topics that comes up at the round table, we have it right in front of you to say that here's our option, so that rather than saying, you know, it's here, you try to picture it, it's behind the school and it's towards 8th Avenue and going down and so, and for somebody like me who probably does not have spatial orientation, I'll be thinking, well, you try to pull something fast over me and I have no idea.
Yeah, no, I certainly.
So I have to say, I'll drive down there, I'll take a look, measure it out, I'll come back, but you have it right in front of you. I'm sorry, if you don't build it, I can't imagine how it is.
Right, no, and I guess my question was more in reference to the very last slide of the worksheet itself.
Well, if we had our computers there, you could just have an Excel spreadsheet up and.
Yeah, and I could, you
Or
know,
a
share
printout
that, share that document if that's what you'd like, then it would be active, you can play around and adapt it to whatever questions come up. I just didn't know how much you wanted to get into that.
Is there anywhere where it says what the average area per student is across the state or for similar sized districts? Is there some place that you can pull it out of the thin air somewhere?
We can look and see if DPI would have it. I don't know the answer to that. It'd be
Because
interesting.
just in case somebody
Yeah.
brings it up and says that you're cramming our kids into 3 schools and, you know, this is going to eliminate their play area, you could always say that, you know, right now, you're getting whatever 180, 300, 250 square feet per student. So
Yeah, I don't know if there would be anything that would show us.
just something to keep at back of your mind in case somebody pulls it out on you, you can always say that
Yeah,
we have checked into it and it's within the standards.
I don't know if they have anything that would be an industry standard on what exists, but I wonder if there might be
I
something
think
that would
there might
be.
be guidelines for enrollment to acreage, so
Right.
there'd be some measurement like that.
Like there's industry standards or recommendations if you're gonna build school, how big your classrooms should be to accommodate, you know, trying to accommodate classes of 25, 28. There's probably something comparable we can find that would tell us what an industry standard or industry recommendation would be. So we can look at that.
What'd you say about the boundaries in the bus company? I'm sorry,
So one of the things that we looked at is if we're gonna have the outlying schools are gonna close, we're gonna use our 3 schools that are in the city limits. Then one of the first looks that we did was to take one rural school and match it with the city school, but we found out that what we wanna do is remove that portable at West. And so to do that, that means that North has to be the bigger school. And so then the boundaries didn't work if you just took 2 schools and collapsed them. So it'll be more extensive redrawing of the boundaries in order to achieve those balanced class sizes and balanced school sizes. So Tim had a thought. Do you want to talk about that a little bit in terms of just using those major byways that we can, if we'll be able to do that, we
Yeah,
have to.
I think we could, when you look at south of 64, so let's start at the first quadrant. If you look at west attendance area, you know, it seems logical to me that it might be Highway 64 west and Highway 45, the west side of Highway 45 all the way down to the bottom of the district. And then east could be east of Highway 45. And then where we start would be 64, or Fifth Avenue, I should say. But as we head out of town, there's a lot of people that are in, there are a fair number of students in that Spring Valley, Crestwood, off of 64 in Muller's Lake, when you get into that area, there's quite a few people. And that'll take a little bit of work to get that enrollment balanced. And what I'm thinking is north, then essentially we would be the north half of the district. But it'd be nice if we can get those enrollments on major roads. And then just adjust the city to make it balance.
So ultimately, our goal would be that when people attend that meeting, they literally could go find their address and know which school they're going to attend. And also know where their babysitter maybe is. And then, that's the discussion, they will be prepared to talk about some scenarios. We won't have it all figured out, but some scenarios of if you attend school here, but your babysitter is now in, a different elementary attendance zone, how will we get you there? But those are the things that we were, I think we had some really good discussion at the committee meeting in terms of, right now it seems so nebulous to people. First, will it even happen? And if it does, how or will I be affected by this decision? That night, we really want people to come in and be able to see which school they would attend, hear a proposal about busing, how that would look, what green space is going to look like, and then we want to have it at the middle school so they actually would be able to come in and see this is where fourth graders are going to attend school and this is where fifth graders are, and really be able to get a better sense of what this is going to look like for me or for my grandchildren or whatever it might be. So those are the things we'll be prepared to have conversation about and then collect feedback on. What is helpful, what concerns do they have, what questions would we still have to answer in order to make this happen. So we'll still do some work with the bus company on that to make sure we bring in those balanced class sizes. One of the other things I really want people to understand is those 600,000, went into west and was something comparable, a little bit more north, a little bit more north, and a little pretty comparable in east. They're going to walk in and have, old buildings, and there's not money to invest in further green space. What we can recommend is, we can do some things at the middle school, which I think would be your priority in creating green space at its playground area. We know that there's a city park close to east. We know there's a trail by north. We know that west is, good already by itself. So we have some avenues that they can use some things for outdoor exploration, but there isn't money to go buy space and create green space. There isn't money to otherwise make these buildings look new. So we will have alleviated the pressing concern of having 6 older buildings, but you're still gonna have 3 older buildings for elementary plus, or middle school. And so when people walk in and say, where's that $600,000? It's here. You're just not gonna see it because it's in the floors and the walls and the ceiling. But I want people to know that and understand. We are investing in them to keep them open and keep them running. This is what your investment will do for the experience that your kids will have. But it's to be as transparent as possible. This is where you go to school. This would be your neighborhood school.
Were you Facebook Live one of the groups or something? Maybe from the district page so people can watch who don't actually come into the...
That's a really good idea.
Because some people, when we did the community hearings, it seemed like a few people sat in the stands and kind of did it, and then you hear reports that like hundreds of people watched, so maybe more than they actually...
Yeah, we could actually have a district person that would do it, have access to it from a public site versus depending on having that. But I think that's a good idea. I'm trying to think what else we talked about in that committee to make sure everybody understands. I think the transportation piece might be the other piece, that's going to be pretty complex. So we talked about, what we'd have to do to keep those routes not overly long. But we have to do some figuring out. I think, we'll have some, once we know what those bus routes are going to look like, or those attendance areas are going to look like, we can go back with some preliminary conversation with the bus company. But, if you're bringing K-12 buses in, pre-K-12 buses in, we talked about in the morning, they drive up to high school, then they'll go to the middle school, and then, some will go to each of the elementary schools. And there was discussion of maybe that's not efficient, and all these elementary kids should get off of their bus in the morning and get on, and so 1 or 2 buses would go to the elementary schools. And I said, I think, a person like Danielle who has little kids is gonna look at that and say, I don't want my elementary kids getting off the bus in the morning and trying to find their way. So, you know, chances are you might have multiple buses going to these sites. And then on top of that, you gotta figure out the parochial piece. And then in the evening, you'd have the reverse of that, where they're gonna pick up at the elementaries, come to the middle school, and then go to the high school, and you have that parochial piece that has to be factored in. So, just so people know, you're gonna have a bus route, but add the travel time from home to your first school, and then you're gonna have school time to go to these different schools for drop off.
Maybe you said it and I just missed it with all that information, like, so like the city kids that like walk to east, north, or west. But, you know, like those kids on the north side to get to the middle school. So are we gonna be busing them then, or how's?
That's a really good question. One of the things we talked about is you may have to look at, will we bus fourth and fifth graders that, you know, you normally would have said they're under 2 miles, but can a fourth grader walk that far? Can somebody cross 64 with an east attendance and they're a fourth grader now to get to the middle school? So, and remember, those aren't reimbursed by the state, but it may be a cost that you'll need to eat because you decide, and Tim talked about that too, we could probably file an appeal with the state in terms of a hazardous roadway and see if we could get some minimal funding to do that. But there'll be some other considerations in addition to, you know, we're gonna get everybody to our school. We're gonna have to look at younger learners are gonna be crossing busier streets now to get potentially to that middle school.
So we would drop off at the middle school first is what the thought is, and then go to high school and elementary?
We talked about high school, middle school, and then the elementary schools. And then after their public elementary schools, they'd go to the parochial.
So would the elementary kids then have the longest drives? Or is that?
Yes. They'd have the longest time on a bus.
See, you know, potty breaks and stuff, like, I don't know.
No, I don't think these bus rides have to be longer than bus rides we have right now.
Yeah, we don't know how long those routes.
You know,
That's
if
true.
we have
Right.
more buses.
That's true.
And actually, these routes should be more efficient to get up kids. And we're never gonna fill a bus,
Right.
no matter what we do. It would take all day. So, you know, if we keep the same number of buses we have,
It might be
the
better.
route's gonna get shorter, but then you gotta add in this transfer time.
Yeah,
But that's a question we would try to answer because we know that's going to be a big one for our family. So we'll try to have that information ready. If we don't, we'll let people know we don't, but here is when we hope to have it and how we'll communicate out. But I know that'll be a big concern.
well, one thought that when I was thinking about all this is like, if you drop off at the elementary schools first, you could have those kids, those fourth and fifth graders meet, you could have the pickup at that elementary school and then take those kids to the middle school and then the high school. Or that's where my brain was going with it.
Sorry, you lost me, Dana. Are you checking in the morning or the afternoon?
In the morning, like you pick up all the kids, or, you know, you drop off the K-3s at the elementary school, pick up possibly 4-7, otherwise 4-5 there, and then either drop off at the middle school or the high school first, and whichever one worked better, and then on their way home, you grab those middle school kids and drop them off at east, north, or west, so then they can walk home like they would right now.
The complication with that is that your high school kids have the highest minutes requirement for instruction, so generally they're gonna have the longest day. And then your middle school kids have the next longest day, and your elementary have the shortest minutes
We
required.
could really bump our test scores as we make those elementary kids.
There are no more minutes requirement.
She's saying just pick them up at that school and drop them off. So even high school kids, theoretically, you could drop them off at East if they wanted to be dropped on.
And then they would walk from there.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what you're saying, right? That bus is gonna stop at East first in the morning. Anybody wants to get on it and go the rest of the way to the middle school or the high school, could.
yeah,
And then in the afternoon, they could get on at the high school and
Yeah.
come back to the elementary school.
yeah.
But you're gonna have your longest day then in your elementary schools.
So could
Your
we-
shortest day in the high schools by doing that.
Could you just
Right.
flip the times and have the elementary start early and the high school start later? That's what she's saying, right?
But there's.
But you're talking about reverse, then,
But the high school still needs more time, so would the elementary schools, which would be hard as a parent if your older kid babysits, so this would be a problem, but could the elementary school kids have fewer days? I don't know. That just popped
I have to tell you, Annabelle already has way too few days, in my opinion. You're probably 8-10 days shorter than what I'm used to. And you add up those minutes of instruction and then you look at our state achievement being compared to others. I mean, actually, when I learned that, I was alarmed. And if we can ever afford anything, I think you need to add days back in.
How much money would that cost us to add?
Well, you have to look at your teacher contract, but
Transportation too.
because, you know, so a sidebar, a longer day isn't necessary, we talked about it, a longer meeting, you start to lose your focus. Now you take 4-year-olds and you keep making their day longer, so you have fewer days, but you have to wonder how good
Could
it
you
is. So that's a sidebar, but I'm not gonna advocate for less days, because I already think we don't have enough.
Could you throw an extra recess in at the end of the day at the elementary schools? You know, because they're always focused more in the morning, and maybe gym and those kind of things are towards the end of the day.
Well, you have to think about how long of a day can your instructors have, right, because you're paying them for an 8-hour day, and then if you add aides on, then all of a sudden you're increasing your cost for that as well. So it's early in the transportation, let Tim and I take a look at it with the bus company and bring you, but I think those are valid concerns, and I think that's what we will have. I will tell you this, in the district it came from, we kept our routes about an hour, and that was from the time they left home until they got to their first school. And the elementary kids were still on the bus for probably 15 minutes in addition to that.
So hour.
We never lost an elementary kid. They all survived it. So, I mean, and I would say, I don't know that our routes would have to be an hour. We'll have to look at that and see.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think we're getting into the minutia of something that we haven't gotten to that point yet. So I think for right now, for what we've got for a roundtable PowerPoint presentation, is everybody looking at it and thinking this is enough for that roundtable?
My last question was, you have in there a couple times asking people what they would want for an alternative plan. Are we gonna present something?
Did I take that out of there, JD? Because we talked about not doing that and really getting the feedback on this particular
Okay.
option.
Okay.
So the goals that
Because like on page 2, you still have gather feedback regarding the initial plan and possible alternatives, and then page 3, consideration of alternative options.
All right, I'll clean that up.
Thank you.
Because we really want them to focus on this. And I think all this kind of discussion that you are having here and that we had at the committee meeting, I would expect that's all gonna be played out in those areas. They're gonna send back all their questions, comments, suggestions for you to consider and determine what is the next step.
Are
And
we-
you're gonna add to this the transportation issue.
Yep. We didn't put it in there now. We had a draft that we looked at the committee meeting, but we know that doesn't work. We just showed you our starting point, so.
Are we gonna get together and have a conversation one more time before, or maybe as a committee of the whole, like just so that we're all on the same page and giving the same information?
Yeah, I can put that on. I thought that too, to have one more conversation.
Yeah, whether it's the committee of the whole or we have another meeting. And since I'm talking about meetings, isn't the board meeting supposed to be on Monday, September 25th instead of Tuesday, the 26th?
Yep.
Okay, so it's wrong on the calendar. Not,
My fault.
way to go.
Colleen, I wasn't paying total attention there when JD was talking, but in this overview thing, the consideration of alternative options, doesn't that mean these are things we have considered in the past and we're just presenting
In
that?
the slides, yes, that is part of the background. We want to be able to just give a little history. How did we get to be where we're at?
So it's not
I think most
asking
people know,
for-
so we're not really gonna belabor it, right? But most people know that you have considered a wide variety of options, and this is how you got to where you are right now.
We're not asking for alternatives.
In those slides, if that's part of background, we're just recapping where you've been.
Okay. The administration knows what we're looking for and we'll progress to that point.
Yep, I will. What I'll do is, if we do that at the next committee, I'll get these out in advance so that you can spot any of those other things that would need to be cleaned up, so we have something hopefully that when you look at it, you say, yeah, we're ready to go.
Then we'll put that on the agenda to talk about more of the whole in September. Sound reasonable?
Sounds good.
Alrighty, very good.
See, it's just like you said, don't go to the operations committee, I make you redo it.
Okay, item D.
Because it's important.
Yeah, item D for board action.
Patrick, you didn't go either, so you needed to hear it too.
Mike, can I clarify kind of a little bit what needs to happen here?
Yeah, Tim, please, because I see there's a move board adopt resolution.
Okay,
such as
so essentially-
stops.
I failed to get this on the June agenda, the July agenda, and now it's finally made it to the August. We have to basically, the CIRMAC, which is the school, Colleen knows what it is. I think the
Consortium
insurance,
for-
it's the school insurance risk management cooperative was disbanded, which we were a part of. So under the resolution there, the document that's RES 2017, that's saying, because this is a formal agreement between, shared agreement between districts, we have to have a resolution saying that we're no longer a part of CIRMAC. And then we have to pass a resolution saying we are joining WERMAC, which is Wisconsin Educators Risk Management Cooperative. And it's a bigger cooperative. And essentially, it's to pool our property insurance, liability insurance, and workers' comp to get lower rates. And then they also advise us on, train us with risk management. So essentially, it's the first document in the group with the 66.0301 agreement, and then the clerk and the board president signing the disbandment. So that's it in a nutshell. So we're asking essentially to dissolve CIRMAC and go with WERMAC.
So moved. Too many acronyms. Okay, now. Okay, we have a motion from Dr. Deep, seconded by Mr. Mary, to, hope I'm gonna get this right, to sign the agreement 66.0301 with WERMAC, and then also to pass resolution 2017-03 to
Remove membership.
remove CIRMAC, correct? Thank you. So let's do that. We have a motion and a second. Discussion by the board. Any questions? None. All right. Bobby, let's do roll call on this.
Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
Kenny Pyatt.
Yes.
Danielle Yushka.
Yep.
JD Schrader.
Yes.
Katie Long.
Yes.
Jessica Mead.
Yes.
Andy Mary.
Yes.
Noel Deep.
Yes.
Mike Bolduc.
Yes. Very good. Thank you, everyone. Glad we could sort through that so quickly. Alrighty. Then we will go on to item E, construction house sale.
F is the,
That's for the bids for this year. This is the sale of the construction house from last year, and I believe that is what was.
Tim, do you want to take us through what you did at the committee?
Sure. If we, I think there's, during the committee on operations, if you look at the meeting minutes there, you'll see the discussion which was held with representatives from the Habitat for Humanity. And if the board members just want to take a minute and read that. So essentially, what Tara Gelzo and Roger Fuller presented was an offer of $30,000 for the purchase of the Habitat, or for the construction class house. They want to do it in two payments. One initially, as we would normally close on an offer, and then the second payment coming when they're ready to move the house, and it gets removed from the site.
But there is a deadline, but for when it's gotta be removed, right?
We need to get payment within this school year, certainly.
And there's no other offers on the house at this time.
No offers.
So what was it they were offering, 30,000, how much does it cost to build?
Right now, I think, if you look at the board documents, there's, I think we have bids tonight to present to you at about $40,000. That doesn't include, Jake and his crew help out with electrical. And, when it's all done, I think last year's materials were just about 45,000.
So we're taking a month hit.
And Tim took us through at the meeting, the different ways that the district did try to sell the house. Do you want to run through those quickly?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not that worried about taking the hit, it's an educational
Yeah.
experience, we don't have to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've been pretty thorough, I think, in terms of trying to advertise, get people in. They did have some interest, it just never materialized. It sounds like one of the hardships is that you actually have to move it then. So there's additional cost, in terms of once you purchase it, you have to have that basement to put it on and you have to move it. So the deals or the interest kind of fell apart in the end.
Tim, did you check out about keeping it heated during the winter, or that was a discussion? And then the insurance?
I haven't looked any further into it. If I guess once we get a little closer, I don't think we should assume any additional costs. So I think they should have proof of insurance upon the first down payment. We can assist them, certainly Jake and his crew can assist them with providing, again, another year of temporary heat. But I don't want to take even the cost, I think, of heating that home. That's a pretty high efficient home relative to our whole utility budget. I don't think it's going to be significant, but I wouldn't want to take any responsibility on that house after we close on it. At that price.
Yeah, right, I agree.
Sounds good.
Anyone want to put forth a motion?
I will. So your motion would be, Dr. D?
That we permit Langley County Habitat for Humanity to purchase the student-built home from the Unified School District of Hennigo for a total amount of $30,000. We pay into installments, $15,000 on initial acceptance and $15,000 at the time that it is removed from the property, no later than spring of 2018.
Second.
Motion from Dr. Beep, second from Dr. McKenna. Any further discussion on the motion? He said if they don't move, McKenna's buying it.
We're moving in.
Okay. Any additional discussion on the motion? Swami, let's do roll call.
Danny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yurzka,
Yes.
Katie Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Noel Deep,
Yes.
Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
And Mike Bowlby.
Yes. Gary, you got a house.
Tara, have you been restraining yourself from seconding motions?
Oh yeah, I've just been good. No, I'm actually working, so this has actually been nice. I had some stuff on.
Alrighty, thank you everyone. Let's move on to the next item, which would be the item F, the 2017-2018 construction house bids. Motion, please.
I move the board approve all supplies for the items listed to build the 2017-18 construction class house. Wilhelm Lumber, $18,080.71 for building materials. Drains and plumbing and heating, $3,598 for plumbing supplies. Wilhelm Lumber, $6,639 for windows and doors. Wilhelm Lumber for $6,711.84 for kitchen cabinets, bathrooms, and vanities and countertops. And Vandercroy Brothers, $4,870 for hanging, taping, and drying wall materials, totaling $40,229.55.
I'll second this.
Have a motion from Ms. Huska, second from Mr. Pye.
How many square feet are these houses?
Oh, discussion. 28 and 48.
And these are all reasonable numbers compared to years past.
Yeah, the right one, and I think last year's bid, it was in there, was 39,000, so it seems very reasonable.
And these are all local suppliers.
Correct. Colleen, did you want to talk a little bit about?
Well, one of the things we had talked about is that it's getting more challenging to sell these homes, and so we would like to have a deadline of November. If we don't have a buyer for this home, then we would notify the high school to not include this class offering for the following year, and maybe move to an every other year, so that juniors and seniors would still have the option to do it. But while it's going for a good cause and you do spend supplies in tech ed classes that are cheap, you know, we're not really, if you look at some of the budget information we looked at as being a low spending district, we're not really in a position to keep that cost year after year. So, but Tom and the high school staff are gonna have to know that, most likely by December is usually when they're putting together the handbook and getting that ready to publish for January. So we are looking at a November
Do kids
deadline.
typically do it multiple years in a row right now? Same kids?
And you shake
The
this
same
yes.
kids?
Yes.
Juniors and seniors, so they have to have all the capstone classes.
So if a junior did it, could he do it again his senior year? Currently? Okay, so we'd just be taking that away. Do we know how many of these kids go on to some type of construction trade?
I don't know off the top of my head, but a majority of them, that's their life. They love the house, they love doing it, they want to get out of other classes to go to the house. I don't have those exact numbers.
Colleen, you mentioned too, that part of the challenge for people is like the moving costs. I didn't know there's been a movement, you know, generally toward tiny houses that are built on
We talked about
trailers.
that.
Is that something that, I mean, is that a possibility for the future as well? I mean, because it's more movable and.
Yeah, I think, you know, we talked about that and so we haven't had a big conversation with Tom and his staff, but I think that would be the next thing to say is not that we would take opportunities away for kids, but how would we reinvent opportunities for students? You know, through academic and career planning, so I was there today during a presentation, Tom was there and counselors were there. Our goal is going to be that we have a plan for every kid anyway, so they might not be at that house, but why couldn't they be with one of our construction partners out in the community still having an experience? So it isn't that they won't get the skills or we won't feed their interest, it just might not be in the same way. But we talked about the same thing, is it tiny houses, is it sheds? Different school districts have struggled with this, really probably since 2008, in what you do to have this be a house that doesn't become you know, such a huge expense for the district. So you know, but that'll be a conversation. But we want to be able to, you know, be letting, you know, Anita's here tonight, but we want to make sure that that staff knows that they have to be preparing for that, and then give them ample time to make some alternative plans.
So they will have an alternative to be able to work with a construction company possibly outside the school?
Yeah, I would think, you know, again, if you look at academic and career planning, every kid should have an individualized plan. So they may go to each kid. If your real interest was in electrical, how can we provide that experience for you? If yours was in plumbing, if yours is actually in the construction part of it, who they go work with, observe, do whatever might be different.
They could actually
for
probably
different
get more specialized learning in that area by
Right.
doing that too.
kids. Right, and the other thing we could look at is even how do we partner with the technical college?
Sure.
So that it might not be an off-site experience, but is it a class that now it's dual credit and you're getting high school and college experience for it, and that's not bad either. Because then if you're gonna enroll in that program in the technical college, by the time you leave our setting, you know, when we look at reducing time in college and staggering debt, that's one of the ways we do it, is to ramp up how many opportunities kids have to earn college credits. So, you know, I don't think it's bad that we wouldn't have it, I think it's an opportunity for us to relook at our opportunities and say, how do we create new meaningful opportunities for individuals who might wanna do it 2 years in a row.
Just out of curiosity, like this popped in my head, like, could someone who wants to buy a house, and like realtors do this a lot, buy a house cheap, could they in essence hire like those junior seniors to do the work? or whatever? Or like, could we fix up the house for,
My
Like
guess
a
is,
remodel.
my
Yeah, like
guess
a
is if you're
remodel.
going in that route, you may start crossing some lines as far as being a certified contractor and that sort of thing, where you've got the right kind of people in there. So you may be careful there.
Also liability when you're off-site, that brings in with students going off-site. I know when we were in Rhinelander, they used to do off-site houses, like through the program, but then students got into car accidents and so then they brought it back to school. So I mean, the school's always responsible for those students during the school day. So that's, that just is
It's
another issue for that.
But you've seen where kids have sometimes done sheds instead of
Yeah, and
houses and.
In Rhinelander, they went out to Kavak, which was our school forest, and they rebuilt Kavak, a new center for people to.
Outdoor, like an outdoor ed kind of space, yeah.
In their school forest.
And realistically, we've already talked about doing stuff up at Vulcan. We're already raising funds for that, so that may be another opportunity where you're still on school property up there and stuff, so something to think about.
I think it's just important that we put as much effort into pre-selling the home as we did in post-selling the home.
Right.
Post-construction selling.
So let us wander back to the original motion here. And do we have any further discussion on those expenses? Because if not, then Bobby's going to do roll call vote.
Danielle Yushka,
yes.
Judy Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
I'm sorry.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Noel Deep,
Yes.
Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
Danny Pyatt,
Yes.
Mike Boldig.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. On item G, medical advisor agreement. You looking for a motion to accept from you?
So it looks like that's a continuation.
Yep. We're looking for a motion, please.
Move the board approve the medical advisor agreement form with Dr. Patrick McKenna for the 2017-2018 school year.
Second.
Thank you. A motion from Ms. Mead, second from Dr. Deep. Any questions on the agreement?
Patrick, you do this job before you got on the board?
No, actually Gary Hagerness did it, and then carried on even after he was off the board. So, but it's nice, there's continuity of doctors on the board too, so. Future doctors will probably.
Is there gonna be any problem when you're gone, Patrick?
Well, I'll probably resign from it when I do go to New Zealand, but I will make arrangements and talk to administration about it.
What happens in that event, though?
And we invite Dr. Deep.
Yeah, I'll ask Dr. Deep. I'll find out what Dr. Deep if he'll do it.
And we can work
He'd be interested.
we can work with any physician.
Talk to him about it, so.
To step into this role, so.
I wasn't gonna put him on the spot, right?
Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
He's a busy guy.
He is.
So then, have we logged that horse to death already?
Yeah.
All right. Bobby?
Judy Schrader,
Yes.
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Noel Deep,
Yes.
Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
Danny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yushka,
Yes.
Mike Boldig.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. On to the next item, which is H, and it's the agreement between the Boys and Girls Club of Langley County and the Unified School District.
I move the board approve the 2017-2018 agreement as presented with the Langley County Boys and Girls Club.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Pyatt, second from Mr. Mary. The document has been out there for you to take a look at.
Did I read that right? It only cost us $2,000? Oh.
Billing 4 hours, shall notice. You are correct. You're all pretty quiet. In that case,
Sounds good.
Bobby?
Jeannie Long,
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Noel Deep,
Yes.
Patrick McKenna.
Yes.
Danny Pyatt,
Yes.
Danielle Yushka?
Yes.
JD Schrader?
Yes.
Mike Boldig?
Yes. Very good, thank you, everyone. Item I, new hires.
I move the board approve the hiring of the following for the 2017-2018 school year. Samantha Nicholson, part-time special ed IA AMS. Brittany Brockman, full-time special ed IA at East. Missy Pregler, full-time special ed IA at North. Kelly Krugel, full-time special ed IA at AHS. Jenna Harbottle, assistant cook, Crestwood. Ashley Morgan, server dishwasher at West. Linda Johns, server dishwasher at East. Rebecca Hilger, library clerk West. Peter Babcock, special ed teacher AMS. Michelle Hafner, math teacher AMS, all effective August 24th, 2017, with all new hires subject to a criminal background check.
I'll second that.
Motion from Dr. McKenna, second from Ms. Long. Any discussion on the hirings or questions, I should say? I don't hear any, so Bobby, let's do roll.
Jessica Mead?
Yes.
Andy Mary?
Yes.
Donald Deep?
Yes.
Patrick McKenna?
Yes.
Danny Pyatt?
Yes.
Danielle Yushka?
Yes.
JD Schrader?
Yes.
Jeannie Long?
Yes.
And Mike Boldig?
Yes. On to item J, resignations. Motion, please.
I move the board accept the resignations as follows. Brenda Bayer, instructional aide 4K, effective July 31st, 2017. Heidi Schultz, food services at Crestwood, effective July 28th, 2017. Zach Patry, technology support specialist, effective August 16th, 2017. And Brenda Davis, Opinsky North elementary principal, effective July 31st, 2017.
Second.
Motion for Ms. Yuska, second for Mr. Pyatt. Any discussion on the resignations? Bobby?
Andy Mary?
Yes.
Noel Deep?
Yes.
Patrick McKenna?
Yes.
Danny Pyatt?
Yes.
Danielle Yushka?
Yes.
JD Schrader?
Yes.
Jeannie Long?
Yes.
Jessica Mead?
Yes.
And Mike Boldig?
Yes. Very good. Item K, donations. Motion, please.
I move the board accept the donations as follows. $10,949 from Wagner Oil Company for purchase of the high school athletics score table, and $150 from Dennis and Brenda Bula for any outstanding lunch accounts at Pleasantview Elementary.
Second.
Motion from Dr. McKenna, second from Ms. Yuska. Any discussion on this?
It's a great way to pay it forward
Yeah.
when lunch comes.
Yeah, let's bring in some, the score table, is that to?
My understanding of it is it's a scores table with an 8-foot LED screen, and so it'll be used to have students, games, whatever going across it, Wagner Oil, and during intermission and at the start, before the start of the game, we'll have an advertisement that comes up. They're talking about possibly selling ad space on it, but Wagner donated it.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. Can we have an insert report?
Jake's working on it.
All right,
Yeah, let's do roll call one more time, Bobby.
Noel Deep?
Yes.
Patrick McKenna?
Yes.
Danny Pyatt?
Yes.
Danielle Yushka?
Yes.
JD Schrader?
Yes.
Jeannie Long?
Yes.
Jessica Mead?
Yes.
Andy Mary?
Yes.
Mike Boldig?
yes. Okay, and that concludes all that business. So, we'd be looking for consideration of a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85 per MC, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically to discuss the compensation of the newly appointed North Elementary principal.
So, second.
Thank you, guys. Motion for Mr. Pyatt, second by Dr. Deep. Roll call vote.
Dr. McKenna?
Yes.
Danny Pyatt?
Yes.
Danielle Yushka?
Yes.
JD Schrader?
Yes.
Jeannie Long?
Yes.
Jessica Mead,
Yes.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Dr. Deep,
Yes.
and Mike Bowley.
Yes, we are officially
you.
closed.